Hello everybody and welcome back to Operation Logistics, where we are currently in a position where, in order to continue, we really do need to implement our building generation into the world hex. So let's go ahead and start doing that. It might be a bit complicated, but let's just go ahead and do it. So the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to add to the hex store a public vector 3. Actually, we could do this as a quaternion. Public quaternion rotation. Because we're obviously going to need to be able to rotate our buildings and have them be the same rotation when we go back there, and we don't want to have to go through all the logic of rotating the roads and all that again. We can just do that once and then store it. The next thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to head directly into our world hex, and we're going to create a new function here. This is going to be generate buildings, like so. But we're going to need to go ahead and just create the function here. So for right now, it's just going to be public void generate buildings, and it's not going to do anything for right now. And then let's just go ahead and determine how exactly we want to do this. I'm thinking inside of our biome hexes is probably going to be where we're going to store it. So here we could do something along the lines of public list hex store. This is essentially the same exact thing as is going on here, except that this is going to be building hexes equals new list hex store of length 73. There we go. Okay, so then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do our generate buildings, except we are going to have that be in the world hex. So we're going to need to be passing in our building seed, which of course is the same as our biome seed. So let's just go ahead and do that here. So in our biomes, actually we aren't going to need to pass it in at all. We are going to need to go into our sub-hex manager here though, and go ahead and take the generate buildings here. And I'm just going to comment that out for right now. Obviously, this is going to create errors. I think that's what we need, right? No? Why is this creating errors? Oh. What am I doing? What am I doing? This is not the end. The end is all the way down here. Roads took a lot of code. Okay, that's the end of the function there. All of that. So let's go ahead and fix this little error here. And instead of generate buildings, I would like to go into world hex and see how exactly we did this. Let's see here. When we actually click on it, we just do populate biomes, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. This is going to be populate buildings. So populate buildings, except it shouldn't be on the world hex, it should be in the biome hex when we click on it. So rather than generate buildings, it will be populate buildings. Do we need to pass anything in? Let's just double check if we did here. We did pass something in, okay. So we'll grab building hexes. There we go. And then in our building hex here, or rather not in building hex, in our sub-hex manager, I'm going to go ahead and create a new function here, public void, and this is going to be populate buildings. And this is going to be a list of type hex store. And I'm going to call this building hexes. And there we go. Now obviously this isn't going to do anything quite yet, but that's okay. So first things first, let's go into our biome hex here. So sub-hexes.populate buildings, building hexes. This is fine. And then when we generate our buildings, which is of course here, this is going to be where we're going to want to do this, and we're going to need to iterate through each of our biome hexes. So maybe rather than calling generate buildings here, perhaps we should be calling generate buildings, like, for example, here, when we set the biome. So generate not generate biomes, generate buildings, and this will be on biome hexes I, because we are passing in now a hex store, and this will be biome hex. Okay, so we pass in the biome hex, and then we generate buildings based on that. And that should be fine. That should be all the data we need. So let's go ahead and go into our sub-hex manager. And obviously, we can just grab all of this for right now. I'm not going to cut it out of here because I want to leave a copy of it in case we break something horribly and need to revert. But for right now, I'm just going to copy all of this, which is rather extensive. And it's going to need a little bit of retooling, but that shouldn't be too bad. So we'll then just go up to the generate buildings. I'm going to copy that into the world hex here, and then paste that there. We can go ahead and delete this, and then all the way up here, we can go ahead and also delete that. And of course, there are a lot of errors. That is to be expected. And then down here, we need to eliminate... Where is it? There we go. Okay. So, at this point, we have 192 errors. So we need to just start fixing them. And let's start up here at the beginning. So random.initState seed. Obviously, we don't have a seed, but we have a biome seed, which will be fine. And then GameObject building equals road placeholder. Let's go ahead and change this from a game object to a buildings, which I don't like that that's called buildings. I'm going to go ahead and rename that to just simply building. There we go. So building equals building.none for right now. And then we're going to do the roads later on. We're going to do the prefabs and such in the sub-hex manager. That'll populate those. Okay, so this next one, road entries. We don't have a list of road entries currently. We could just grab that from the sub-hex manager. So sub-hex manager.road entries. Easy enough. Roads. We could do the same thing here. I'm not 100% certain that we need these roads, but we'll figure that out. So as far as the road entries here go, we can just keep using the sub-hex manager. Because this is all on a... this is all on a per hex basis. So, I mean... The thing is, all we need to do is we need to get this, we need to store the location and the rotation of the buildings, and then that's it. And then we'll populate it later on. So using these is fine-ish? Fine-ish. We'll go with that. Okay, where's the next error? Here, subhexes. So rather than subhexes, we should probably use biome hexes. Okay, hang on. Biome hex is what we're passing in, which doesn't actually have a reference. Biome hex has a reference to it. Hex store does not have a reference to that list. And that's okay. I don't necessarily think it needs a reference to that list. So, we're iterating here through the list of biome hexes. So this would be our list of... this is our list of This is our list of building hexes, is what I'm trying to say. So, with our list of building hexes, we need to do something. How do I want to do this? We've got our reference to biome hexes. And then, we don't really know which biome hex it is, and the biome hexes are a hex store anyway, so they don't have their list of building hexes. So there's that. Okay. We don't need to do some of these things. We're going to have to retool how this is structured, for sure. Like, we can go ahead and do the roads for right now. That'll be fine. This generates in the roads, theoretically-ish. And then this here starts generating the non-road buildings. But we're going to have to do that a little bit differently. First things first, we don't need the color. So we can go ahead and delete any color changes. Like so. And then, once we have that done, that'll free up some of these errors, to be sure. And then we absolutely do need a reference to our list of biome hexes. Or rather, our list of building hexes. So let's go ahead and do... How do I want to do that, though? When we generate our biome hexes, we're generating it here. And then we generate buildings on biome hexes I. So we know which biome hex store we're using. And then I feel like on the biome hex store... Okay, here's the thing. We can eliminate this. And then in the hex store, we can have the minimum level be biome hex for whatever reason. And then rather than a quaternion rotation here, we can have a public list of building. And then this would be buildings equals new list building 73. And then public list quaternion building rots equals new list quaternion 73. Okay. So now we actually do have a reference to this. And then in our biome hex over here, or rather in our world hex, when we generate this, I'm assuming we're setting the level. Not sure we actually do. I think we just set the biome. It's fine. It's fine. If we have a need for that, we can make sure that we set it later on. So in that case, we can do biome hexes dot buildings dot count. You not? Why does it not see that? Oh, because we need a particular hex here. Biome hex dot buildings dot count. There we go. Okay, and so subhexes I dot biome. We don't need to set the biome here because that's already being set. We've restructured this. So let's go through and delete all of these that set the biome. That was a biome, right? Yes, that was. Okay. So biomes.farmland we no longer need. Biomes.forest we no longer need. Biomes.town. Okay. Excellent. And now instead of subhexes I.building, we would want to do something along the lines of biome hex.buildings I.building. or rather just biome hex.buildingsI is not equal to building.none. So there would then be a road there, don't spawn anything. So let's just go ahead and find and replace at this point with Control H. Subhexes I.building can go ahead and be replaced with biomehex.buildingsI. And we will go ahead and replace all. 30 occurrences replaced. Excellent. Now, these chances here, they don't exist. We can grab them from the subhex manager. There we go. We can just grab them like that. It's not perhaps ideal, but it'll do for now. And then factory chance. Factory chance plus brewery chance. And then down here, apartment chance. Apartment chance and duplex chance. Field chance. Field chance and farmhouse chance. Okay, forest chance. Cabin chance. House chance. House chance. Store chance. Okay. So now we can start going through and changing these buildings. So honestly, building equals storefront, we don't really need. Also, where is this building declared? Go to definition. Building equals building.none. I feel like we don't even need it. That's going to create a few more errors, but that's fine. Because we're already setting it in the array here, or rather in the list here, which is the only place we need it. That's it. We're not populating this list yet, so... Well, we're not populating the hexes yet. So all we need to do is set it in the list so that we have the data. Building equals field can go away, all of these can go away, so each of these lines is 2 errors. So there's still like 55 of these, but we'll get there. Building equals clearing, building equals house, blah blah blah, we don't need all of this. Okay, GameObject road equals road placeholder. Yeah. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit more complicated again. And the question is really, how exactly do we want to handle this? Because we're now generating our buildings correctly. We're not generating the roads currently. And of course, as we get down here, there's even more errors. But we're under 100 errors, so that's good. That is very good. Okay, so the correct prefab at the correct angle, blah, blah, blah. And then all of our angling and all of this. So that's fine, but let's just go ahead and come on up here to our first error here. GameObject road equals road placeholder. For right now, I'm going to just comment that out. I'm not sure if we need that or not. So list building hex r road equals roads subhexes I dot on road. Well, my main question is, what if instead of having our road prefabs, what if we added each road type, or rather each intersection type, to the enum of buildings? So this up here. Rather than just having road and intersection, what if instead of the generic intersection, we renamed this from intersection to intersection generic, for when we don't know what it is yet, and then added in all of our other types of intersections so that we can just set that and then calculate the rotation and then create it later on. So let's go into our prefabs here, into our roads. So obviously we've got ourselves, come on, there we go. we've got ourselves building road, and I'm just going to split the screen here. And this is going to be, here we go, this one. And we are just going to go down the list here. So we've got our road, we've got our generic intersection, so we've got our bendy junction, and we've got our road corner, we've got our road corner sharp, we've got our road intersection two-way, we've got our road intersection three-way, we've got our road intersection five-way, we've got our road intersection E, we've got our road intersection Y, we've got our road junction, and I'm going to go ahead and call this road bendy junction, and I'm also going to rename this to intersection generic, from intersection generic to road intersection generic, just so that we're a little bit more clear here. So we've got our road junction, we've got our road junction two-way, so road junction two-way. We've got our road placeholder, and then we've got our runway, which doesn't really count. Okay. So there's all of our structure types, or rather all of our road types. And I can just go ahead and make these full screen again. There we go. Perfect. And then the question is, how exactly do we want to handle this? Well, let's hop on over to here at this point. So list building hex r road equals road subhexes I dot on road. So what are we adding to the on road here when we generate our roads? I think building hex, current hex, on road. Ah, okay. So we need to go into our hex store and put in a public int on road, like so, and hop on over here to our world hex again, and when we do on road, we should be on current hex, which should probably be a hex store current hex. And realistically, the thing is, it needs to know where the road entries are. That is true. That's going to be a little complicated. Hex store next hex. Well, we use the adjacency. Okay. When we do our biome hex generation, do we... Hang on. When we generate our biomes, do we do it the old-fashioned way? Yes, we do. So we can do the same thing here. Subhex manager, we'll go ahead and set it active here. And this will be subhex manager. And then subhex manager we will set to this position. And then at the end, we'll have to remember to turn it off, which is something we didn't do up here. Let's go ahead and fix that right now. So subhex manager set active false. And then at the very end of generate buildings here, we will go ahead and subhex manager set active false. Okay. So now this is fine. And our biome hexes are going to be kind of interchangeable with our hex stores. We're going to have to make sure that we store properly. So if we come on down here to where the first error is, it's here. So list building hex r road equals roads subhexes I dot on road. And I'm going to go ahead and change this from building hex to... Actually, no, this is fine. Just add in the sub hex manager.roads. Okay, put this on in here. And then we will fix this the same way. And then same thing here. Like, basically, when we're generating the roads, that's fine. We just don't need to spawn anything, so we don't need this. We're going to do everything exactly the same way, except that we are going to store the output slightly differently. So then everything here should be just fine. And we can go on down here. Road equals road placeholder is not helpful. So we can go ahead and delete that. That's now unnecessary. So we can check here. Subhex manager, subhexes i.neighbors.count. Okay, so the problem here now is that the subhexes i.neighborsj.building. Okay, so the hex store doesn't know adjacency, right? But the building hex does. But the building hex, with what we're doing right now, doesn't necessarily know what road we're going to have. We want to transition away from using building hex as a storage, and we want to use hex store. So maybe we want to grab the adjacency from here. Let's check the building hex here to see if this has a hex store. Does not. Okay. Well, I do need to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do this. And next episode, we are going to work on getting this function fully migrated over. See you all then.